Hello and welcome to today's content, which will focus on Mont's UR version, which is Mont, King of Leonis, since he has been announced, especially earlier than usual. I'll be analyzing his abilities and give my perspective and insight on the unit, and will give him a rating out of 10 on how good of a unit he is to maybe help you pull. And before we begin, I do have to say that some of his abilities and passives are not 100% translated yet to English, and the ones that are going to be brought off the announcement or notice page itself. Also, due to time constraints and real-life obligations and having to get my COVID vaccine, there will be a few untranslated versions, so please bear with me. And yeah, without further ado, let's begin. So for his main job takeaways, his main job is called Archlord. So as the base unit, he's going to get Proclamation, which is going to be basically his hate up TP ability and gives him agility so he could get another turn. His small hit ability, single target, is going to be a physical damage break for only 121% of damage, which is fine. It breaks the physical barrier, it's not bad. His next ability is going to be his hardest hitting ability, which is, I'm not sure about the translation name for it, but it does 200% damage and has a 25% chance to disable, and as you can see in the range, it is 4 tiles away. It is very, very useful. He also has another ability for TP, which is going to be casting elemental resistance plus 15% for his entire team, including himself, and as you can see on the AoE marker, it does have a cast time though, so you have to be wary on how it's casted. And one of his strongest abilities outside of disable is going to be the slash resistance in peril, which is like Kotetsu, which is going to be the claws of the young lion. And as a base unit, it has a 34 AP cost, which is a bit high, and 2 casts, so only 2 usages of it, unfortunately. You can see, however, that the range on it is huge due to like the AoE range on it. However, on his EX upgrade, the 2 casts of Claws of the Young Lion turns into 3 casts, and then it turns into 29 AP. That 5 AP cost reduction is actually pretty significant because he has 3 casts instead of 2 now. Also on his EX upgrades, his EX only skill at level 120 or job level 25, he's going to get something that increases defense by 15, and it restores a very good amount of his CT, his combat time basically, or I believe it's called combat time, but yeah. So once he uses this, he's able to get another turn very, very quickly. It's not going to be instant, but it's going to be very fast. Lastly, we have his limit break, which is going to be called King of Leonis, where it does 200% damage, and it's an AoE around himself, as you can see there, and it has a 67 base chance of inflicting Berserk for 3 turns for targets. So this is very, very strong as an ability overall. So for the sub-job takeaways, for his Archlord sub-job, he's going to get something that's like Deterrent Sword, such as what Warrior of Light has. It's not very long reach, but it does hit decently enough, 165%, and it debuffs attack and magic. It's not bad. He also gets a castable, not on him range of regen, which is nice because if they are far away or you need to like change up your AI, he can cast it onto his allies farther away than having to be right next to them, which is nice. It does have a cast timer, however, so please be careful of that. For Ninja sub-job, he does get Shuriken and I believe Katon, which is the fire ninja ability that's going to be there, and then it's going to be Dream Within a Dream for chaining. As you can see, Ninja doesn't have as many hard-hitting abilities. It's mostly going to be for either... I guess I should have put like Decider of Fate here for the accuracy buff for 1 turn, but I do believe like it's not good enough compared to what his main role is going to be for Mont, which should be tanking as his main role. For his Nightblade sub-job, he does get Double Resist, Stun Blade, Maiming Slash, and Spinning Slash. These are all going to be very relevant because Stun Blade kind of replaces his physical barrier break small hit ability. If they don't have a physical barrier, having a stun chance is better than being able to break no existent physical barrier. Maiming Slash is going to be very good because of the decreasing healing power, which is very relevant, especially in this meta right now with Yuna healing a large chunk of HP pretty much. Spinning Slash is going to be a little niche, however, it is his hardest hitting ability, as well as if you berserk the enemy units and they're all surrounding you and you can't move, Spinning Slash will be there to like hit all of them in your range of 1 tile. So yeah, it's something to consider. Here we are for resistances and passives. For the damage types, we're going to have -10 for strike and 0% for magic. These 2 are going to be his main weaknesses in terms of resistances overall. However, his pierce is going to be at 10% and his missile is going to be at 15%, and the much larger version is going to be his slash, which is at 25%. His AoE, luckily for him, because of his master ability, he gets 15%, which is pretty significant because AoE resistance is very nice to have if you're all bunched up. His resistances to statuses is going to be 50% to stop, which is very good, and 50% to blind, which is, it's alright, it's not bad. 10% to poison. Poison is not too relevant in our meta in general right now. Maybe for PvE, yes, but PvP not really needed, like very often. You could argue like maybe for live PvP, yes, against like Leonis, but you get what I mean. For most situations, it's not going to be relevant. For his master ability, he's going to have the mono fire ability, master ability. And then he has for himself, like I said earlier, he has the AoE resistance for 15% for himself. So this is very, very strong in my opinion. So his moveset is going to be move 3, jump 1, unfortunately. However, he is also a double cost, well not double cost, I should say 100 cost unit. So that means his shards are going to be double the value compared to regular URs. For his passives, what I recommend is, unfortunately I can't translate it well, so it's going to be his I guess maybe King of Leonis passive, which gives him defense and HP, and his EX upgrade gives him hate on the passive, which is very, very effective and nice to have. After that, we have the Nightblade Master, which is going to be very good in terms of giving him attack and accuracy, or if you want more agility, you can run Shadow Runner for the agility and luck. This also kinda opens up, if you want to do some super niche evasion build with Mont, you could. Also, his moveset is 3 move, 1 jump. However, he does have access to Shikuchi, which gives him access to 4 move, 2 jump. So it's very, very effective on certain maps. It depends on what setup you're running. His niche passive that I would say, I mean, I think it's still good, but I had to put something in the niche and flex, is going to be his acquired AP up passive, which increases his acquired AP by 50% for himself only. The reason why I put this in niche, however, is that I believe his recommended passives are just far more effective in how useful they can be, rather than using a passive, like an entire passive for just AP up, and it's not even guaranteed. It's just, well, what I mean by it's not guaranteed is that if it's like a small map right now and you move like last, you don't really get an ability off that can regen your AP, you'll be attacking the enemy, so then you have a passive that's kind of useless. Stuff like that. I do believe the other passives are much more effective in that case. For reaction abilities, unfortunately, he doesn't have any of like super god tier ones like reflex, but he does have a good one where he can counter all damage types by up to 30%, but has a 20% chance of proccing. He has counter swing from the Nightblade sub job, which is, it's alright. Range is short, but only 30% chance of proccing and only a little bit of damage. It's not horrible, but it's not bad. His poison barb is going to be there from the ninja sub job. It does have a chance to counter all damage by 50%. However, inflicting poison is not going to be as reliant or effective compared to either reducing damage or dealing damage back with a more consistent way of doing it. Also, since poison barb is kind of reliant on faith values as well, it's kind of wishy-washy if like in terms of how useful it will be due to faith. Here we are, Mont rating out of 10. So this might be a little surprising, or maybe not surprising at all for people, or like, oh wow, this is overrated, but I seriously gave 10 out of 10 for both ratings, and I do not give 10 out of 10 very lightly. I'll explain why. So at release, UR Mont is going to be the most diverse tank for damage, utility, and tanking for what he's has for his utility and kit. He has very high HP, he has decently good attack, it's not super high, but it is definitely relevant. He has high defense, he has very high agility as well for a tank, but he does have 0 base spirit, unfortunately. He can, however, due to his kit and his resistances overall, he can tank basically everything with the right setup. He is extremely difficult to one-shot in one go. He has a very good mixture of both AoE and single target abilities and attacks. He has a slash and peril for 38%, and his limit break is a 67% base chance of berserk, and it's AoE. Very strong. He also has a spammable single target disable attack that's also his hardest hitting ability, and he also has a physical barrier break for his main job. This is all on his main job abilities, which is pretty crazy on how flexible it is when his main purpose is not even to deal damage. It's to tank, technically. He also gets access to an elemental resist buff for all damage type, well not all damage types, all elemental types at 15%. And it's AoE for his teammates as well, so this is pretty significant. He has an innate hate on a passive as well as a hate TP ability, so he's flexible in how he can like generate hate or like have hate in the beginning. This is very, very effective. For sub jobs, he's allowed to pick between chaining from the ninja, reducing ability power from the Nightblade, and or increasing your missile resistance and pierce resistance, and he has attack and magic percent debuffing on his Arc Lord sub job. So he's very, very flexible in what you want to build him as. He does, however, not have any 100% hit abilities, but he has an entire tank kit, so even if he can't DPS or hit a unit, he still has his main job as being a tank. He also has an accuracy passive option from the Nightblade passive, so it does not mean that he's completely useless against evasion. Now for his future and longevity, why he's still a 10 out of 10 unit. The reason why is that he lacks a defense penetration on his own. However, this can be fixed with his own vision card, and in the future there's a new sword weapon that we can farm up that gives 20% defense penetration. This means he has options and access to defense penetration if he wanted. He's very severely weak to water units, unfortunately, and he takes a hefty amount of damage from magic without proper mitigation, but with the right setup he can tank those types of damage types. With Slash Imperil and defense penetration on Mont, if you set him up like that because of his vision card and his basically Claws of the Young Lion, it allows Mont to always be relevant for a decent bit of damage. He's not going to be one-shotting anyone, but he will always be relevant for damage. He will not be hitting like low 3-digit numbers unless you specifically build like super high against him, which does not happen as often. Due to his very high defense, he demands mandatory defense penetration or debuffs from opponents. If you do not have a defense penetration or imperils against UR Mont, you're going to have a hard time against him. If you use magic, that's a different story. He doesn't have very high spirit, so it's better to go that path unless you do have imperils and debuffs for it. Due to his high base resistance and AoE resistance, it's hard to kill him very quickly. As I said before, you have to kind of use single target damage against him, or you have to have water elements. The reason why is that he's very, very strong in that if he groups up next to his allies and then your AI or your teammates are gonna like start doing AoE abilities because you know they want to maximize how many they hit, Mont's not gonna be taking much damage due to his AoE resistance. There's going to be units like Titus or Ziza with their single target like abilities. They're going to deal much more damage to UR Mont compared to like AoE abilities. For example, like Titus's Sphere Shot might do even more damage to Mont rather than like an energy ray from Yuna because of the AoE. Obviously there's going to be like, a lot of variants. Maybe I'm like BSing really hard, but you get what I mean in terms of his resistances. Single targets or water is going to be very effective against him. As of the Final Fantasy VII Remake collaboration in Japan, there are still no dedicated fire elemental healers, and there's also no like super good fire units for Mont to like party up with that have an EX right now outside of Mashiri Winter. So it's gonna be hard to make a mono fire team. If you can, you go for it, but other than that, he is kind of like a unit on his own currently. That means you're gonna have to use non-mono element healer such as like Yuna pretty much, or like Halloween Leela, stuff like that. Because Mont can be status affected by like disable and stuff, this is pretty bad for him because disable is a very important status effect to have. However, because he is a tank at heart, as I said earlier, like his purpose is to like absorb damage and tank damage. It does not matter too much because of disable. As long as he has his hate passive on or his hate TP ability on, it does not matter as much if he does get disabled. And lastly, why I still believe he's a 10 out of 10, but this almost lowered him a little bit, is that his Slash Res Imperil ability, which is Claws of the Young Lion, sorry. The Slash Res Imperil is applied after the hit. What this means is that you're going to be dealing the damage first, and then the slash resistance is going to be reduced. And this has to hit, the ability has to land for the Imperil to go out. So if you avoid it or evade it, you do not get the slash res Imperil. This is very important to note because it does not increase the damage immediately, such as like Kotetsu, where Kotetsu lowers your resistance first and then hits you, which is why people think it hits much harder than it does. And lastly, it's going to be his TMR rating. Why I gave it an 8.5 out of 10 is the reason why is 491 HP is, for most people, they're gonna be like, oh, it's an armor, like it's a lot. The thing is, his TMR is an accessory. For 491 HP is a lot. 11 defense is also more than armors in general, and spirit is 6. While the spirit is not a lot, the defense and HP stat alone as an accessory make it very, very effective just in terms of a stat stick itself. The active itself is also an increased area of resistance for 3 turns for his allies, which is very nice to have, especially since he has high AoE resistance. But it's not going to be, this TMR is not going to be as effective such as like Zizabel's or like something more niche of a build where you want to get like turn 1 order, like Keen Blade stuff. So it's like, it's very good as a stat stick. The active ability is very good too, but it's not going to be as impressive as you might think compared to the other options I just said. So overall, I do believe Mont is a 10 out of 10 unit. He is a double cost unit, but I do believe if you were to like wondering if you want to invest into him, I do believe he's a solid unit that could fit in almost anything you really want, as long as you build him for it. Here we are for setting up Mont for like setup builds or just examples. So if you want to technically go full tank on him, I do believe like the Titus necklace, platinum armor. If you do have a good platinum armor plus 3, 4, 5, it's very nice on him because it gives him strike resistance. And we should be getting the buff that Japan got where it also gives him single target resistance. This is why platinum armor plus 5, I do believe for anyone that's a very hardcore PvPer, it might be an end goal for them, which is very nice to have. And then he has Ayaka boots for the agility as well as a little bit more spirit to stack on. Unfortunately, we do not have Phoenix right now. Phoenix should be coming out a week or 2 after Mont's release, so it will be relevant in here soon. But yeah, I do believe Phoenix is going to be one of the best espers for him in general because of like it increases his damage, his survivability, and his resistances, so it's very good. His own vision card is going to be almost mandatory on him now if you want him like get as much usage out of him because of the, especially with the global buffs on the vision card, it's going to be very effective. For a mixed build, maybe you do want Mont to deal a bit of damage as well as tank a bit. His flame tongue weapon that is going to be coming out with his unit itself because it's his weapon pretty much is going to be very good in terms of increasing his damage. The Brigadine, sorry I'm bad at pronouncing that, is going to be coming out for a raid item later, so that's why these builds are not going to be like as useful right now, but they do in the future increase like it's gonna be there and be very relevant because Brigadine not only gives 20 defense but also gives 10% AoE resistance on top of what he already has, so it's gonna be very strong. Bells are gonna be here because most of his abilities are like most of his strengths on Mont is gonna be his abilities. Having bells or his casting on his AoE stuff, it's gonna vary in general, but bells are gonna be very nice on Mont in general if you want him to keep outputting damage that is gonna be very consistent. Phoenix obviously and his vision card is going to be there, but with what we have available, and this is why I put a separate build right here, the possible week of release build to fight off water teams, because Titus is going to be very strong. He's already strong right now. We also have Winter Victora, which should be getting her EX very soon. It's going to be also very strong against Mont, as well as Ziza, who already has her EX. So these items in this build is going to significantly help against them specifically. So with the Flame Tongue, you want the damage obviously. We had the Pod from the Near collaboration because it increases his single target resistance and gives him a little bit of agility and defense, so it's going to be nice to have. And we have specifically Whisper's Mask. The reason why we have Whisper's Mask is that because Mont's overall resistances are already pretty good or decent, outside of magic and strike, with the 5% overall, it helps cover a lot of resistances in general. This would theoretically not be very good on an offense team for Guild Wars, but it would be very flexible on a defense team for Guild Wars. The Siren Esper here is specifically going to be for the water resistance and the slash resistance because you want to survive as long as possible against the Titus and Winter Victora, pretty much. His own vision card is going to be there for the defense penetration, his own HP, a little bit of damage and survivability for the defense, so it's going to be very good. And the overall resistances for this build, as you can see at the below, is going to be AoE at 25%. This is very strong in general. Single target is going to be 8%, and then like outside of the AoE and single target, slash is going to be at 55%, very strong. Missile is going to be at 20%, it's not bad. Pierce is going to be at 15%, not bad. That means Glaciela can still do good damage to him, but it's not going to be as strong compared to like if you're going to be using magic and strike. Strike you see at -5%. Obviously, that means Ziza is going to be very good here, or Glaciella with Monk's sub-job is going to be very strong here as well. And Magic is going to be at 5%. So this means that Magic will do a good amount of damage. However, a lot of strong, hard-hitting Magic abilities are going to be AoE, so it has to cut through 25% of it. Another, however, sorry, I keep saying it, but Yunas or like other white mage caster types are going to have Holy, which is going to be single target. So it's going to be still mitigated a little bit by the 5% magic and the 8% single target, but it still hits pretty decently hard on him. As I say, and I emphasize every time, if you do not have Mont and you want to fight against him, bring a water unit or Ziza or very strong single target magic users pretty much. But yeah, I hope these sample builds help a little bit on theorizing if you want to fight against them or build him. And we arrived to the end of the video. As always, if you liked my unit analysis on Mont, please leave a like and subscribe. I do believe I'm gonna be a little bit busy for a bit. However, I do plan to make more videos for units and generals. If you guys want me to do like a early release video on like the FF7 characters to see if you want to like save up for them, or do you think they're worth pulling and you don't want to just pull them just because it's Final Fantasy 7. I mean, I would if I had the chance, but yeah, if you want me to do an early version for them, like now, I could do that probably in the week or the next week. We'll have to see depending on my time, but yeah. If you do want me to do it, just let me know in the comments, and until the next video, have fun, good luck on pulling him, and peace out.